Greetings, brothers and sisters, and welcome to Begin by Praying. Today we're going to clear up some confusion that people have about the promises of God. Now, every preacher in every pulpit loves to talk about the promises of God. And everybody, believers and unbelievers alike, love to hear a promise from God. There's just something about knowing that God makes promises. It makes us feel good on the inside. Well, he certainly does make promises, and we should meditate on them and stand on them and wholeheartedly trust God for every promise that he makes. But here's the problem. Not everything in this Bible is a promise, and that causes a lot of frustration for a lot of people who don't understand the difference between a promise, a principle, and a guideline. So, I want to clear up some of the confusion on this today, hopefully in a way that's simple enough for you to understand and know the difference. Okay, we're going to move quickly, so let's get started. You ready? Okay, first thing we need to know is that when God makes a promise, it usually requires some action on our part to fulfill it. That's a conditional promise. Now, God does make some unconditional promises. Those are called covenants. And there's nothing you or I or anyone can do to change or fulfill a covenant agreement. For example, the Davidic covenant states that Israel will always have someone on the throne from the line of David. Now, Jesus Christ is the ultimate fulfillment of that covenant, but there's nothing that anyone can do to change that. The Abrahamic covenant states that Abraham will be the father of many nations and his descendants will be as numerous as the stars. There's nothing you or I can do to change that. So you get the idea. The covenant agreements are specific and unalterable. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky because God made a blood covenant with and through Jesus Christ as a way of salvation for us. There's nothing anyone can do to fulfill that covenant. It's already been fulfilled. However, the promise of salvation, that's a conditional promise, which depends on us to fulfill. We have to confess with our mouths and believe in our hearts that Jesus Christ is who he says he is in order to receive the promise of salvation. Now, a biblical principle is a specific truth about God's nature that we can live our lives by. For example, in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, he says that all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Now, that is a biblical principle that we can trust. So how do we know if something is a biblical principle? Well, here's how. I want you to think about the world of science. And how does something in science move from being a scientific theory to a scientific principle? It happens one of two ways. Either we see it occur enough times to know that it's a natural occurrence, or it has to be repeatable in a laboratory setting with the same results every time. And so it is with biblical principles. We should be able to see them from cover to cover in here with the same results. And when we see evidence of it in the laboratory setting, that would be our own lives. Time and time again, this truth being worked out, we know we're talking about a biblical principle. God's promises and his principles never fail. Never. And that can be quite frustrating for some people who don't understand the difference. So we're going to take a closer look at that next week and get a better understanding of God's promises and his principles. I hope you join me right here on the BBP page. Until then, keep your eyes on Jesus and not on your troubles. Thank you.